Alright folks, welcome back. I've got the Kubota. It's the B2601. Previous video we did a 50-hour service on the tractor itself. I told you guys that I primarily use this for mowing, and I do. And there's also a 50-hour service, if you will, on the mower deck. Now, the first 10 or 12 hours of this thing's life, I didn't use it for mowing. I did some other things, but we're at like 52 or 55 hours, somewhere's in there. We're close enough. We're gonna take the mower deck off. I'm gonna show you how to do that. They come on and off pretty easily. It's not clean, so you have to bear with me on that. I used it yesterday. I need to use it again today, so I haven't pressure washed it, so it's gonna be a bit of a mess, but that's neither here nor there. I just want to get the 50-hour service done, which doesn't include much other than changing the gear oil gearbox and then going through and greasing it, which you do that quite a bit more than just every 50 hours. So I have done some gravel grinding with it, I call it, where we've wadded up a bunch of rocks, so we probably have some blades that need a little bit of touching up, so we'll see if we can take care of that too. There's quite a bit more to the mower deck than what I'm going to show. In this mower deck, so I've already set it up, I've already leveled all the linkage and everything. I'm just going to show you how to take it on and off. Hopefully your Kubota dealer, when you bought your tractor, if you bought it, you know, with the deck, hopefully they went through and did that for you. They had mine super close, just had to do some minor tweaking, but at any rate, I've got my gauge wheel set 1/4 inch above my cut height, and what you need to do is just, you know, either mark your line, make a reference, know where you have them, and I just take and pull them up, and then I stick the pin back through here, like so. I just keep this in my pocket. And then we got to do the same thing on the other side, and I'll show you how to lift up the back gauge wheel. So the back gauge wheel here, you just pull the pin, and then you can flick that little guy up right out of the way. Well, right here, we're going to pull the pin out of our ramp. We'll take that off. Same thing on this side. Just pull that up, and then we're going to pull the pin on the ramp. Wiggle that up out of there, and then I'm going to lift up the front gauge wheel also, same manner. This is the proper way how you're supposed to do it by the book. Let's be honest, most of us don't. We just drive over top of it. If you want, actually what I usually do is I've got a 2x4 blocks. I just throw under the deck right on the lip that hang down lower than the gauge wheels. So use your best judgment. The fact of the matter is, you know, you're putting a lot of stress on the plastic wheels and on the axles if you're just letting the mower deck down, letting it sit on these while you drive over top of it. So just use your best judgment. With the deck all the way up, we want to turn our cut height to 0. Let your deck all the way down. Pull our pin, drop it, and we can take this little guy off. Leave that right there. Unlatch this arm. Unlatch this arm. We'll start the tractor up. We'll raise our 3-point hitch back up. We'll shut the tractor off. Put one of our ramps right here. We'll stick our other ramp right here. We're going to reach up under here. We're going to release the lock collar right here on the back of your PTO shaft. So we're going to pull that collar back, and then we're just going to slip it right off and let her lay down there. What we'll do next, we'll start it, put it in 4-wheel drive, low gear, and we're going to back right up over top of it. So I think it's kind of a pisser is once you get them off, they're super heavy. So they're kind of a pain, you know, you got to have 2 people almost to move the things around. You can drag it around yourself and tip it up and work on your blades and stuff, but they're pretty heavy, so I picked up on the forks. I'm going to take and just blow some of the stuff off it. I'll show you how the shields come off here. Maybe you guys just want to take a look at one of these, or somebody's watching this video because they're considering buying one, kind of want to know what they're made of. These guards pop off pretty easy, and they're pretty heavy duty. And you can see how thick they are. A little different than the 60-inch I had on my BX. Of course, that wasn't a drive-over style. They were just tin on that, but these ones here, they're pretty darn thick. So they just pop right off there. So I'll set those down. I'll blast off some of this dirt or grass clippings here. So we need to change the gear oil in the gearbox here. There's where you fill it. That's where you check it. That's where you drain it. not super convenient. It's right over the belt. I suppose we could tip it up on its side. Might be a thing to do. Well, let's just try something. We'll just take and pop the belt off. So here's your belt tensioner right here, and it's under a pretty fair amount of spring tension. So if you can devise a way to, hold it or, take your spring off, it's pretty stout. I think we're just going to stick a ratchet strap under the pulley, pull it that way, and just pop our belt off. At least that's my hopes and dreams. So we're going to just stick our hook up underneath the pulley. I mean, it's not crazy rigid, but it's enough where you're trying to do it by yourself. I can't hold it and take the belt off at the same time, so let's just see if this works here. We'll just take a little tension off it this way. Just like that. That should be enough, I'm thinking. Just keep your fingers in a good spot in case it doesn't work. There, that's all we wanted. We'll just leave that like that. Now we can come over here without getting gear oil all over our belt. It doesn't hold a lot of gear oil. I think like half a quart maybe. We have here 12 mil, I think. She's 12 mil. I've got just this little container. I think it had screws in it. So we'll crack our check plug loose, and we'll crack our drain plug loose. And it might be kind of a grueling process. I think we can wedge this in here. What I always did on my other deck was I would bring home a fluid extractor from work. That's the easiest way. But I don't feel like driving all the way to the shop to get one, so I guess the other thing we could do is, a little Dixie cup or something under here, which I may have to go get. It's just like a small cup. Why don't I do something a little different before we make a big mess? Stand by, folks. Maybe. Bottom off a tin can. I don't imagine it's going to come out very quickly here. So we're going to do this in little bits at a time. What I'll do is I'll get that ready. I'll get the, I guess we'll just dump it in this old orange juice container. And this way here I can just put my finger over the drain hole. There, the plug's out. It's not going to come out very quickly until we give it some relief. Or it's empty, one or the other. One thing I know for sure is we'll probably make a mess. There she goes. We're off to the races now. You guys probably can't see it, but there's really not a whole lot to see. It's just some cloudy looking gear oil coming out. If you have a fluid extractor or can borrow one, or are going to buy one, it definitely makes this job way easier, because then you can just take the fill plug out and just suck it out the top. But honestly, there's not a lot of gear oil in here, so. And if you do spill some on the deck, there is a hole directly below the gearbox. It'll drip right underneath. Then this last little bit's going to take a while. I'm going to make sure that the deck's tipped forward slightly. It is off a little tiny bit this way. This stuff's thick as honey, so it's going to take a while. I'll leave that there for a bit and we'll come back and finish it off. Grab yourself a 22 mil and crack the fill plug loose there. Some junk off it. Leave that like that. There's a washer on there, so make sure you don't lose this washer. And then this over here is the vent, so there's naturally going to be some residue buildup around it. Like Looks like it's pretty well done. It's right down to just a drip. Leave it as long as you feel necessary. I feel that's about long enough. These also have sealing washers on them, so make sure that there's no junk stuck on those. We're going to stick this lower one back in here. We'll snug it up. Just don't want it falling out. We'll grab our hanky here. We won't bother cleaning up all the gear oil down here until we're 100% done, because we're going to lose some more out of our check plug there. Now at this point you want to make sure your deck's pretty well leveled. It doesn't have to be perfect, but close, you know. You just don't want to, you know, really extreme. I think the book calls for a straight 90 weight. We're going to use 80 dub 90. I forgot to get some when I was at the Kubota dealer, so today's flavor of the day is some Valvoline. Not a sponsor, but it'll do good for us. So you can go find that later. And then we just fill it up till it comes out the check plug. Which I think the book says this one holds about a half a quart. We'll see. There it is, old son. Just peeing out that. I'll let that kind of achieve its level. What did we use? So we're down, we got like 22 ounces left, so like 10 ounces. Right, because these are what, 32 I think? Goes up 20, I think they're 32 ounces, yeah. So about 10 ounces. It's just peeing out of there now. I'll let that kind of achieve its level and we'll put the plug back in it. Dump that in there. Down here, start sopping up some of this gear oil. That up. This is a 22 mil up here. Snug it up, get some more hankies. We'll get some brake parts cleaner. Finish cleaning this up the rest of the way. Once you have your mess cleaned up, we should be able to put our belt back on. Put that on there. Back over the idler pulley here, tensioner pulley. And run everything, crack her loose. There. Not too bad of a job, really. Weston, what are you doing, buddy? Come here. Why are you laying out in the driveway? Huh? Are you hot? Go get that fly. Huh? Are you too hot, buddy? Your sister's over here laying in the shade. You don't like laying over here, do you? It's too hot for you today, huh, Wolf? It lays right in the shade. Yeah, there's a good baby. You got itches, huh? That's a good girl. Now, as far as greasing it, it's pretty easy. You can do it while it's on the tractor. But we've got your spindles here. Now I grease these often, so I'm not going to grease them a lot. You got your center spindle, then your right side spindle. You got your idler pulley here for your tensioner. You've got the pivot for your tensioner, and then your U-joints. And then you've got the splines here on your front drive shaft. And then we have this U-joint here. And then your front gauge wheels also have those fittings on them. The gauge wheels I grease every time I mow. both of them. And that's all there is to greasing it, folks. We'll put the tin covers back on here. And like I said, I've been grinding up some gravel with it, so we better have a look at the blades to see if they're really chowdered up. They might just need touched up. If not, then not. So let's have a look underneath it. So it is pretty dirty under here. Not as bad as I expected because I didn't pressure wash it yesterday when I got done. But the grass was pretty dry when I was cutting it, so it wasn't too bad. A lot of times I just pull down in the pond a little bit so the blades catch the water, and then it clears it out pretty well, to be honest with you. At any rate, we're going to have a look at the blades. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised that they're not chewed up as much or any worse than they are. They're really not too bad. If you read in the service data, they do tell you if you're taking the blades off to sharpen them, they rotate them. So this blade will go over here and then everything shifts to the right. I'm not a mower expert, so I don't 100% know the purpose of that, but that's just what they show you. I guess what we can do, I mean, it's not going to hurt to just lightly touch up the blades, I suppose. I can show you how to take one blade on and off, and put it on and torque it down, and the order of which way the washers go. So I can show you that, and then the other three I'll probably just leave alone, or the other two rather. 30 millimeter. We're going to use a 1/2 inch Uggy Duggy. Loosen that up. Whoa, a little dizzy spell. Whoa, man down. So you're gonna want to pay attention to which way these washers go. They're concave, they're convex, depends on how you want to look at it. Here's the spline hub that goes on here, and then naturally the nut hit the ground, and that little guy is right here. So don't be fooled by the size of the head versus the size of the threads. It looks like it might only be a 12 millimeter thread. So be warned. You can take these spindle guards off there. If you got kids, you probably got fishing line wrapped up around them. So if you got any junk in here, we could wipe off the excess grease also. And then clean out your spindle guard that you're hanging on to in your hand. If that has a bunch of grease and junk in it, you can wipe that out also. Be sure to go through and sharpen your blade. Now these were pretty good. I just touched them up with a hand file. This has a little chip out of it here, little tiny nicks. I'm not going to get carried away. I'm not a super lawn mowing weenie as far as, I don't even know what kind of grass I have. Mostly weeds. But at the end of the day, it doesn't 100% matter to me. Make sure you're putting your washers on in the correct direction, so they will be, well, let me set this down here. Hopefully you have a book. Don't trust some weenie on YouTube. They're curved in this direction. They're dished down. So as you're tightening them, it should be flattening them out by pushing on the center. If that makes sense. Hopefully it does. So we'll put our spindle guard on. We'll stick our blade on. Make sure that's in the right direction. Make sure your washers are going in the right direction. And if your washers, gosh dang it all the heck. I was going to say, if your washers are getting flattened out, they won't torque properly. And then you'll have to get some new ones. Kubota usually keeps the washers in stock. When my dad was alive, he had a, like a Kubota, I guess it might have been like a zero turn. It had the big mower deck on the front, and that had a similar washer setup, and they had to be changed quite often. But yeah, they would, what would happen is they would just slip, So, and then these get torqued, I don't remember what the book said, 75 to 85 foot-pounds, something like that. It had quite a broad range. Let me see if I can get a block of wood that we can wedge in there, and then we'll jam that down. I should wedge it on the end of the blade, I guess, be the smartest. Alright, let's see. We're going to just go 80 foot-pounds. Right in the middle. Count for some error. But yeah, don't just go whacking this down with the impact, because it is actually a pretty small threads on that bolt in comparison to the size of the socket, you know. So there's that, 80 foot-pounds. And then if you feel inclined to do so, you can go through and do the rest of them. Which I don't know. Like I say, they all feel pretty dang good. So I might skip it this go around. Now one thing I should have shown you before I flipped it up, I pulled the outer part of this, the CV axle, outer part of the PTO shaft off. Now, just like you drive shafts in your car, they have to be in phase, you know, they have to be lined up. But you'll see what they've done to make it easy for you, so you don't have to think, is it has a keyway in it. So we've got, you know, single notches, and you come down here, on this one it's across from the grease fitting, we have this double notch. So we have to look on our shaft here. Yep, and right there you'll see on this one, basically, I don't know if what they've put in there, I don't know if it's just the way they machined it. It's not a full solid, you know, two splines stuck together, but right on the very end of this one we can see this one's different. Has, you know, almost like if you put a little booger of weld in there. And that needs to line up with your double part. You can't get it wrong, basically. You can't put this on any other way. It'll start, but you will never get it to, you know, slip right in. So there's that. Just a little piece of advice, just in case that, you know, falls off on you and you're struggling, you know, to get that back on. That's what you have to do. So there you go. As far as putting the deck on, similar process. We'll stick our ramps down here in front of our tires, stick the PTO shaft so it's sticking out flat, of course that ramp on, and then we'll put our front attachment bracket on. And then we'll just put it in four-wheel drive, low range, and drive right up over top of it. Be sure your lift arms are all the way up, so make sure your 3-point hitch is all the way up. Ramps back in storage, throw the pin back in those, do both of them. And then what I usually do is eyeball where the hitch mount's going to come down and line up on these brackets. I can tell it's obviously off. So you just grab the deck if you can, kind of shimmy it a little bit. We'll hit the down lever. See if we're somewhat close. Alright, we're pretty close. Reach under, I'll grab the other bracket. There we go. We'll let our pin loose here. I know it's got to come back a little bit. We're pretty close. It's a little bit of poke and hope here. Let's go check the other side here and get it a little bit closer. This side needs to come back. Crack that pin loose. Oops. We'd have to come back a little. There's that one. This one needs to come back a little bit. There's that one. We'll hook our front one up. There's that one. And then we'll reach under and hook up our PTO. Get her started on the splines. You might have to rotate it a little bit. If you can. Of course we can't because our blade's right on the ground. We'll turn the PTO shaft here, but we can't. Let's see. We'll get her turned one way or another here, folks. Let me grab the belt here and just move it just a little bit. You don't have to go a lot. There, I just rotated it slightly. You'll feel it start on the spline. And just like that, you slip her on. Piece of cake, baby. We'll raise the deck up. Shut it down, and then we'll put our gauge wheels back where we had them. That one. Told you I was going to leave those in my pocket, but I knew I'd lose them. And that's all there is to it, folks. You're off to the races now. Not quite. We're going to set this back. I cut mine on the 2.5 setting. And that really is all there is to it, folks. It's a pretty easy deck system to take care of and maintain. There's not a lot of maintenance on it. And for those of you with the OCD, yeah, I took the other 2 blades off because I got to sleep at night too. And there wasn't anything different on those than there was the other blade that we took off. I will say this, I don't know what Kubota uses for a belt and for blades, but on my BX22 that I had a very, very similar deck, same size, you know, same style belt, and I had well over 1,000 hours on that. Belt was original, blades were original, and I very rarely sharpened them because they really seem to hold an edge quite well. So for what it's worth, if you're contemplating whether or not to buy one of their mowers with one of these decks, I think this deck fits a lot of others than the 2601. And there's not much more I can say. I'll go up, I got a mow up at my cabin, so I'll go up there and do that. Show you guys a few, get a couple clips. Get it? Clips. Guys, clip it? No, nothing. We'll get a few clips doing some hot laps with it. But it's like any other mower, I suppose. It cuts grass and blows it out the side. Like I say, I'm not a big lawn mowing weenie, so I don't know a lot about the grass and how you should cut it and stuff like that. And the other thing is, yes, I know and assume all responsibilities for working in, at, near, and around hydraulics and having the mower deck on the forks of the tractor. So before we get, you know, tons of comments that you shouldn't, you know, be anywhere near loader arms or anything like that, I fully understand it and fully assume that responsibility. I'll show you guys some mowing. And I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. I think the dogs are about to ruin your fishing. You want your stick? You want your stick? Ready? You don't really like the water, do you?